I began a tale with you in my previous video of the most expensive television show ever created that had a built-in fandom of J.R.R. Tolkien loyalists and fans of the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films and books, and they crapped all over it for their own
sheer hubris.
We're going to continue that tale today. I'm Troy from Marks on TV, and today I'm bringing you the return of the fan backlash against The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power on Amazon Prime Video, and the studio's absolute incompetence with how to handle it. Before we begin, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell to be notified whenever we post new videos. Now on with the story. All of the articles that I'm referencing in this video are linked down in the video description. As I mentioned in the opening, the fan backlash and the trashing of said fans by the people involved with the frauds at Prime was abound for at least the past year. Let's start with an article from USA Today, which is one of the rags left in front of your hotel room that you instantly throw away upon seeing the front page. The Rings of Power draws racist backlash and threats, but Amazon and Frodo stand behind it. Middle-earth is back on our screens, and it looks a little different this time. Some have responded with hate. The large cast of Amazon's heavily hyped The Lord of the Rings prequel series, The Rings of Power, includes a group of actors from different racial and ethnic backgrounds. Last week's premiere has been accompanied by a small but vocal backlash online from viewers angry that the elves, dwarves, Harfoots, and humans of the series include people of color. Actors on the show have been subjected to harassment and threats. This is just anecdotally, but I have been following a lot of people critical of the show, and I've read a lot of comments. None of them involved race, or if they did mention race in some way, shape, or form, it wasn't in a hateful manner that could be construed as racist, unless you're one of those people that thinks that by mentioning race whatsoever, that's instantly racism. But I digress. Back to the article. The racism has been denounced by a top Amazon executive, the entire Rings of Power cast, and stars of the Rings films, including Elijah Wood. Here are the major developments. Why is there racist backlash to the Rings of Power? Previous adaptations of Tolkien's work have included mostly white, mostly male cast, including the films by director Peter Jackson, which made billions at the box office and won dozens of Academy Awards. Amazon's series imagines a world in which people of color and women are central figures. Characters of color include a queen regent, an elf warrior, dwarf royalty, and the leader of the Harfoots. According to the Rings Twitter account, some actors of color have experienced, quote, relentless racism, threats, harassment, and abuse, end quote. The series has been subject to the online trolling practices of review bombing, in which a minority group of displeased viewers tanks audience reviews on sites like Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score sits at 85%, but the audience score is as low as 39%. On Prime Video itself, reviews have been suspended because Amazon are cowards. That's why. They go back to the old faithfuls like the House of the Dragon and the last Star Wars trilogy for examples of this, but the difference is, House of the Dragon didn't go full bore with their hatred of the fans, and oh yeah, they put on a good show. They also mention John Boyega and Kelly Marie Tran specifically from Star Wars, not doubting that a few bad actors, not referring to the cast of The Rings of Power by the way, lobbed more than a couple racial epithets at Boyega and Tran, but I guarantee that wasn't the bulk of the criticism. For Tran, it wasn't her fault, so criticisms thrown at her that don't have to do with her acting skills are really stupid. But Rose was flat out a bad character. She was forceful and nasty with Finn throughout most of the movie. She really wasn't necessary, and her and Finn's side story was pretty dumb, to be honest, in a movie full of pretty dumb stuff. And then she ends up falling for Finn before the end and pretty much forcing a kiss on him. I don't know, I didn't hate Rose, but I felt that she was a waste in the movies. As far as Boyega, anecdotally, I haven't spoken to a single person that hated the Finn character or Boyega himself. What was hated was the way that Finn was portrayed. He didn't have a consistent character arc, and he was wasted potential for a pretty damn cool character. His force abilities were never explained. He was virtually left out of the third film. Oh, and the great and powerful Disney hid him in versions of the Star Wars posters that went up in China. But yeah, no, 'tis the fans who are racist. Basically, Amazon is taking from the playbook that Disney has perfected and is still pulling from to this day. If your product sucks, blame the fans. Call them toxic, call them ists and phobes. They tried that for their Star Wars properties, and it's failing. They tried it for Willow, and it got cancelled. They've been trying it for Marvel, and now Marvel is dipping. But no, by all means, keep it up. Instead of appealing to your built-in audiences and the nerds and stans, by all means, alienate every single one of them. Also, I've been to more comic conventions than I ever care to remember at this point, and the last thing that nerd culture tolerates is hate. Nerds are the most inclusive and diverse bunch I have ever seen, bar none. Moving on from the claims of racism, though, do you notice that they use review bombing only when it goes against what they want? Review bombing is only ever used when a bunch of people completely destroy something in the ratings. Do they ever check to see if anyone has legitimate complaints or justified reasons why they don't like it? Do they ever see if any of the reviewers actually watch the product and hate it? Nope. Critics like it, viewers hate it. Therefore, it's being review bombed. Yet, you can never hear that kind of criticism when it comes to movies like Black Panther, which was getting 100% on Rotten Tomatoes before it ever even hit theaters. It seriously got better ratings than movies like Citizen Kane. Is that review bombing? Nope. Amazon and the mainstream media shills have written their own narrative for shows like The Rings of Power. Switching gears to an article from Bounding into Comics, let's talk about a huge mistake that the frauds at Prime made right off the bat. The Lord of the Rings fan site describes fans critical of The Rings of Power as toxic, questions their fandom. TheOneRing.net, or Torn, not to be confused with TheOneRing.com, Torque, continued to attack the Lord of the Rings fans critical of Amazon Studios' upcoming The Rings of Power series and even questioned their fandom. Torn, which previously claimed to be a safe haven for debate for the Lord of the Rings fans, continues to expose just how big of a lie that was as they become the living embodiment of Grima Wormtongue.
Be silent! Keep your full tongue behind your teeth.
The website's official Twitter account shared a tweet from NBC News' Kat Tenbarge claiming, quote, content creators of all genres are pivoting to cover the Depp versus Heard trial, riding algorithm to millions of views. Quote, I spoke to one 15-year-old boy who went from Elden Ring streams to trial coverage. He's now at 22 million views and counting, she said. You know what? Good. Get it while it's hot, folks. I worked in news for over a half a decade, and there's one single line that still rings true. If it bleeds, it leads. In this case, if it trends, it leads. Why would smaller content creators not jump on the hottest trending topics? That's insane to me that someone that's supposedly in legitimate media doesn't understand the simple freaking concept. Or maybe she does understand it and she just has sour grapes that she's not the one getting the clicks and the views. Don't you guys cover the same crap over and over, running wall-to-wall coverage when it's a hot and trending topic? Anyway, back to the article. In response to this, Torn wrote on Twitter, quote, sharing this for all of our fellow LOTR enthusiasts and media outlets who might get discouraged by toxic Tolkien takes on YouTube. Quote, it's the algorithm's fault and does not represent an honest view of our fandom, Torn added. Well, since you're bringing that up, let's take a quick look at those numbers, shall we? Now, obviously, review aggregators aren't exactly the bastion of truth and should always be taken with a huge grain of salt. However, look at this. Internet Movie Database, aka IMDb, which is owned by Amazon, might I add, rates this show a 6.9 out of 10. And in my opinion, that's way too high. Hell, these positive reviewers might have been high for all I know.
Allegedly!
Keep in mind that Amazon held back reviews on IMDb for about a month, and then started carefully curating what could and could not be allowed in the reviews, and then started deleting legitimate reviews. Skipping over to Rotten Tomatoes, we see an audience score of 38%. That's right, the complete flip of the average tomato meter, which works in mostly paid shills, professional and trusted critics. Seeing that the tomato meter is only at 56% for Super Mario Bros. With a 96% audience score, and is now the highest grossing animated film on its opening of all time, that just shows you that these professional reviewers are complete useless hacks. But back to the article. First, the assertion that people criticizing the Rings of Power are toxic is a complete and utter lie. It is not toxic to critique the Rings of Power for not adhering to Tolkien's work, especially when the showrunners admit that they don't even have the licenses for most of the work that covers the time period that they claim to be adapting.
Go back to the book, go back to the book, go back to the book.
Those are legitimate and valid criticisms, and to claim they are toxic reflects more on who Torn is, as noted above, the living embodiment of Grima Wormtongue.
Be silent. Keep your full tongue behind your teeth.
TheOneRing.net is the epitome of paid shill hacks that have been simping for Big Daddy Bezos and Prime Video since this multi-million-dollar atrocity was announced. They are not to be taken seriously, but they are just one of many instances of true fans and real criticisms of this show to be brushed off and dismissed as toxic, sexist, racist, and any other ist or phobe you can think of. This is the second of 3 videos I'm doing on the Rings of Power, so there's still one more chapter coming that relies a lot less on articles and a lot more on opinions based on evidence from the show itself that I've seen. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you missed part 1, please go back and check that out. It's linked at the end of this one. If you agree with me, please comment below and let me know where I was spot on. If you disagree, also please comment down below and let me know why I'm wrong, in your opinion. Just keep it civil. And please let me know if you watched Season 1 of The Rings of Power, what your favorite and least favorite parts were, and if you're going to be watching Season 2. Also, please share this video around to everyone you know, and don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that little bell to be notified every time we post brand new content. I've been Troy from Marks on TV. I will see you next time.